We're back. So, I don't know what part this is. I'm kind of done trying to label the parts, but this is the part with Bedman, and obviously, I don't play the character, so I had to grab the best we have, GcYoshi. Say hello.
Hey, what's up?
So, yeah, we've had this in the works this weekend, and we finally are here now. You know, obviously, Bedman's a very interesting character. No one really knows what he does, and no one has really bothered to learn the matchup, so I feel like whenever people see Bedman changes, they're just like, oh, okay, he got better. Right? I don't really know what it does, but he's improved, right? So I want to first ask, how like your expectations of what you wanted for Bedman? Do these changes help your playstyle? Are they buffing him in a direction that you don't want? Maybe you do want it. How are you feeling about the changes overall?
Yeah, so it's really interesting you asked that because we basically a lot of Bedman players wanted something to help with mid-screen confirms overall. And we got the one change that no one expected. People wanted like maybe this move to vacuum or something like that, or one of his moves to vacuum, but instead we actually got it on a different move entirely that no one actually asked for in this form of this one, JS. So that's a pretty big one that I think I'll be covering later. But basically overall, the TLDR is that Bedman's pressure is a lot more stable in this version. His ability to call out backdashes is with higher reward is better. His ability to convert is better. And because his pressure is better, he generates more risk, and his cash outs do a little bit more damage as a result. So he's overall a much better character in terms of pure risk reward and conversion ability. If he had issues with neutral before in some matchups, this patch isn't necessarily going to help him, but it will make his turns, it will make the situations where he earned his turns much more impactful. So I guess a good example is like the Chip matchup. You know, Chip is very good at winning neutral, and especially against Bedman, that's particularly the case.
Yeah.
But now it's like if I actually get the hit on Chip, I can generate into a momentum that actually matters.
Got you. And I guess going back to neutral, that's one of the things I wanted to ask about, because obviously White Wall Assault did end up getting nerfed. So
Yes.
how would you rate Bedman in terms of out of all the White Wall Assault characters? How would you rate? Did he use it was he one of the best users of it or one of the worst users? And I guess this patch as well, did that change at all? Is he one of the better users, one of the worst users? What do you think?
I think he's between all four of the White Wall Assault users. I think he's maybe third. In terms of like we can probably unanimously agree that Gold Lewis was the best user of it. After that, it could arguably be, I think it's Pop for sure.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I think it's Bedman. Nago's good at using it, but he doesn't actually need to really crutch on it.
Yeah.
But Bedman, I think in particular, is kind of a weird case because he actually needed it in some matchups. There, like, I guess particularly against like Testament, Axel, Asuka, in matchups where he's not able to kind of sustain. Pretty much, he's not able to sustain the fireball game, and he's not able to use his movement very reliably to kind of like navigate. Then he needs to use White Wall Assault to kind of call the opponent out to kind of stop, you know, putting stuff out in neutral or putting hitboxes out.
Yeah. So going back to Wild Assault, obviously with the patch we got the change that Wild Assault on wall break is no longer going to lead to a hard knockdown situation.
Yeah.
So obviously Bedman, when you look at his run speed, is a slower character, right?
Yes,
so I'm gonna guess his Oki probably wasn't. I'm gonna like obviously assume there wasn't a safe jump situation. There probably wasn't the best Oki afterwards. So how does it look? How much of that, like, how big of a buff is that for Bedman in particular?
So it's good that you brought that up because the thing is, you're right in that Bedman technically did have a safe jump, but it was a very, very nuanced safe jump. Basically, you have to do a super jump, immediate hover, FD cancel into JS. And the problem with this is that your opponent can easily just backdash away, or they block it and nothing happens afterwards because, you know, JS didn't vacuum in the prior patch. So it was a safe jump that had like too many frame perfect situations that yielded no reward.
Yeah.
So it just didn't really matter. So even off of hard knockdowns, you have to kind of make like little weird gambits or kind of like do unsafe things just to kind of like make your turns matter. So the ability to like get hard knockdown off of White Wall Assault in the corner or after wall breaks is like, I wouldn't say it's a big loss for Bedman in particular. He's kind of a character that's kind of comfortable to reset back into neutral, and especially if I can store an error on the wall break. then it's not too big of a deal. Because then afterwards I can like have the capacity to kind of just do stuff in neutral and then just hold on to my error. And then after that, at this point, I could easily earn my turn back and make him matter. So, yeah, I think like overall, I don't really. I think it hurts other characters a lot more than it hurts Bedman. That's the thing. So every character losing hard knockdown while wall assault, like having Soul just lose it, it's like so he doesn't get like automatic safe jump anymore. That's like it hurts him more than it hurts Bedman. It hurts. Yeah. So I think overall, this change is kind of beneficial for Bedman in the grand scheme of things, even though it's like a universal nerf.
Yeah, so like basically other characters are now kind of having to play the same game as Bedman, where it's just not like wall break, 50-50, blah blah, you know, soul art, fast RC, blah,
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
Okay, nice. And how about the burst change? So obviously with less burst gain overall, you know, less burst gain over time, less burst gain on burst gain on wall slump, wall stick, wall break. So talk to me about that. Obviously Bedman's you know, his defense is considered weaker among the cast. So not, you know, and apparently, you know, his neutral isn't the best in a lot of different matchups, so having to play more risky. Obviously, you might get hit here and there more. So, you know, not having the option to burst as much as a character with, you know, weaker defense, and especially, people will be surprised, as big as Bedman is, he's actually not on the top end of the cast for HP. So how does that look for Bedman?
So in terms of like burst mechanics overall, I think the fact that everyone gains less burst naturally, and also wall slumps or wall splats causing less or creating less burst is kind of a good thing overall for Bedman. He has tendencies in situations where he may accidentally break the wall, primarily because of this error in particular. So they just actually don't block, then all of a sudden like the wall would just immediately like that was like one hit away from breaking the wall. So and in that regard it's kind of unfortunate, but I think overall it's much better for Bedman just because the opponent has less opportunities to just get out of the situations now, just through just bursting him away. Subsequently, I think this also helps Bedman overall as well, just because with burst being a little bit more of a, how would you say it, like a more
actual resource.
Yeah, like his actual. You said it correctly. Like actual resource, like it means less opportunities to deflect shield, which tends to be pretty good against Bedman. Less opportunities for opponents to suddenly just like, you know, wall assault in your face and whatnot. So it's like basically because it's a natural resource now, there's a little bit more of a thought process to it. So I think that's kind of good in the grand scheme of things, because I felt like burst was way too free in the prior version.
I agree. One thing I wanted to get on, I've seen the Twitter clips, man. I've seen the Bedman doing like these JK fuzzies, all these air normals that he's using now. So talk to me about the changes to the JS and the JD. How important are those to him in his pressure?
So I think I kind of want to go through order of like, or go in order through all of his like character specific changes, because they all kind of play in tandem with each other. So I'll probably just begin with the most simple one, is his forward jump. It's probably not entirely like noticeable, but his forward jump actually arcs a bit further forward, so he's technically faster. And this change overall is like, okay, it's nice and whatnot. It's not a huge change. If you compare, this is his forward jump. This change did not apply to his super jump. His super jump still only looks like this, his forward super jump, but his forward jump arcs a bit forward. Now the reason why this matters actually, and I'll go into now the JS and JD vacuum, JS vacuum into JD, because the reason, just block high, the reason why this is important is because his air dash actually carries momentum from his prior air movement. So what happens as a result is, if you do forward jump, you get the cross up, but if you do super jump, you don't.
Same side.
Yeah, so same side. So you can actually manipulate whether you want a fake cross up or the real cross up. This forward jump once again, and And I'm pretty sure specifically this forward jump momentum change was specifically designed with that in mind. Of course, it has like, other implications as well, meaning that if you got me cornered and I just like fuzzy jump forward, I may have a better chance to get out. So that's always kind of nice too, and also means that forward jump in general, I have like a bigger threat range in where I can like kind of check you. So if you try to occupy that space in front of me, you're just gonna get snagged. Now to kind of throw that back into the JS changes, like now, if you, oh, sorry, I'm actually out of FD. Yeah, so now at any point I can start fishing for JS hits. So if you try to occupy the space, I get my turn now. So I can actually do some really like annoying like strike throw mix. And this is even exasperated more if I have an error. So if I have an error, sorry, if I have an error stored and you block it, then I can just error chain and then really like do some stuff to begin my turn. So basically, S is kind of like a fishing hook now. So it just pulls people in and it kind of does a lot of things. And of course, you could always go for some pretty ambiguous stuff.
Yeah, I've seen. That's what I've seen.
Yeah. So JD in particular is the main change that they did was that they made a ground bounce. So just like block low real fast. Yeah, so it has like that weird kind of like ground bounce effect now. And JD, you can always jump cancel the landing recovery of it. So now you can do you can always like get JK. Yeah, JH to some degree too, but yeah. But you can definitely reel them in with the new JS routes to do some pretty crazy combos. So the reward off of this is pretty much like made 4 times better, because before the optimal like meterless confirm off of JD is that's it. That's all you get. So that's what it was before. And now you're just getting some kind of crazy magneto jump loops now. So it's pretty awesome in that regard.
Yeah, no, I've seen the clips. It looks crazy. I was like, when I first saw the patch, I was like, dude, what do these changes even do? And then I like went on Twitter and I saw people doing these like crazy ass loops. I was like, oh, okay, like
yeah. And also like Bedman, I guess another thing I forgot to mention is that his forward jump being better as a result means that like sometimes I could just like go for a more cheeky like cross-up situation with JD just because my forward jump is a little faster, and of course JD has more rewards. So these two changes work in tandem with each other.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And I believe the other change he got was to his close slash. I'm not sure how big that is, but walk me through that.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, close slash before, what happens was that this is his optimal non-counter hit close slash confirm.
Oh, non-counter hit?
Oh, no, non-counter hit, sorry. Just like that.
Yeah.
It's a spin knockdown. The reason why this little prop up is important, the what did they call this? This stand stagger.
A launch on hit.
Like, yeah, that kind of like or standing crumple.
Yeah.
But the reason why this is important is because it's the difference between getting a spin off of 2H as opposed to getting this.
Oh.
So that means that he now gets a good knockdown. So ideally, Bedman can be viewed in basically his knockdowns could be viewed in 2 ways. You have the weak Okazeme, which is involving his spin. It's still good. You take it whenever you can get it. But under the circumstances, if you can choose between getting spin or getting malfunction, you always want this.
Gotcha.
This is a hard knockdown, and a bomb is also like you know all the guard crunch stuff. It's pretty much like it's you always want that instead. So this pretty much ensures that you can get something like this. Also, how do I turn on counter hits in this training room thing?
You can't, but I can get counter hit.
Alright, I'm gonna try to do. Yes. So you can also get it off of JS now.
Gotcha.
And then let me see. How do I? And of course, like if you, oh yeah. You can start setting up like jump loops and whatnot. So it's kind of fun. I'm terrible at it, but yeah, something like that. Okay. So it requires a lot of practice, a lot of nuance, and but there's also like he does have like better routes in general. I think a simple one I can just show you real fast. I think it's actually kind of optimal. Oops. Yeah, I think this one's actually like pretty optimal and does quite a bit of damage.
Gotcha.
And you have to also like pay in mind like this is without risk. If you have risk, this shit begins to do a lot more damage.
Yeah, I believe the other change, not to another normal, was his far slash. I'm not sure how big of a buff that is, but walk me through that one as well.
It's pretty big because situations before. So basically, the main change is that bar slash has less pushback, right? So a big problem before with prior Bedman, I guess it still technically exists with this version, is that bar slash's ability to confirm into combos is kind of like mediocre as a result. At the very tip of his disjoint, I don't think I can get anything. Yeah, like that didn't combo. But the thing is that like this range used to be a lot worse. So before I had to be like around this range, I think like this range to actually get bar slash into 2H. But now I think I can get it like here. Yeah. So I can get it much further away now. So that improves his ability to confirm at certain ranges. And of course, like if you really are able to do the one hit confirm, then I think like over here you can still get spin.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so basically it gives Bedman more capacity to actually be able to like confirm off of like hitting some of his pokes, because his bar slash is a great button by itself. But the reason why I never really liked using it is because I hit it, so what? Or if I hit it at its optimal ranges, like it doesn't matter. I have to go to like just setting up a Neo instead.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of the main thing. In some situations, also for like air hits, I don't know exactly how I would do it.
Oh.
Yeah, it makes confirming stuff like this a lot easier too, because the less pushback also applies to air hits as well.
Got you. It seems like with this patch, so it was obviously a smaller balance adjustment, but I did the axle changes the other day with Trevor, and like you also like how the changes they did with Johnny when I talked to MJ. It seems like these characters have problems confirming their hits, and it seems like they're trying to make them more stable by giving their making the combo routes actually possible from most ranges, right? So it's not like a total. Obviously, the later changes to like that will change how the character completely plays will come in October. But just with this patch alone, do you feel Bedman is that much different? Do you think he's a new character? Like, it's relatively the same? How do you feel?
I feel JS changes alone kind of like change a lot of the things that basically, because diversity forward is actually a little bit different now, you're incentivized to go for different things. In fact, like JS is just so strong that you're kind of like fishing for it now. Before, I never actually played like this because there was no reason to do it. Like the best I ever got before is I hit JS low and I go into 2D for a hard knockdown. That's it. So now I feel like, okay, I can actually begin my turn a lot more. So if I start to have an error stocked, or sorry, if I have like an error stock, then after that I can like start to play my game a lot more. I have a lot more ways to kind of mental stack the opponent with like JD now. I think overall you want to still like the neutral's mostly the same, and I think like matchups that were difficult before might not be necessarily better, but you have better capacity to just like, I guess, just momentum shift and just like completely like run over the opponent if you get in that situation. So I think by that regard, this character is a lot more scary, and I think overall, he's definitely this is probably the biggest step in a while, I think, that this character took in terms of like improvements.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you. So obviously it's too early, and I know you've been a little under the weather, so you probably haven't been playing as much as other people. But based on the matchups you've played, I'm not telling you to put them exactly on a tier list, but for Bedman alone, where can you see, and like obviously you have the top tiers, and then you have the characters that can win, and then you have that floating bubble of like 10, 15, 20, whatever, or not 20, like 15-ish, 12 characters, whatever, kind of floating around in that just fine area. Where do you see Bedman now? Obviously, he's always been considered a weaker character, but can he win? Maybe not the best solo character still, but how is he feeling in your eyes? Like, how does he feel?
I think he feels a lot better. He feels a lot more fun. I guess that's the most important part.
Okay.
But the thing is, like, I think there are a lot of problems with this character still that kind of are that makes it a little bit difficult at times to overcome certain matchups. I guess for one, like some of his normals feel still very specific in terms of like their use and like how they are designed. Usually big bodies have like a lot of moves that kind of do like 2 or 3 different things in one. But Bedman's, I feel like he actually still has like very specific uses for each normal, but it's only like tied to that specific use sometimes. With the exception of JS now. But yeah, otherwise, I think in terms of like the overall scheme of like where he might land on like this hypothetical tier list, it's hard for me to say. Because the problem is that a lot of his bad matchups are actually also other low tiers. Like he actually didn't do terribly well against Pod. He didn't do terribly well against Testament, I think. Axel was always kind of dreadful. So I think it's difficult with those characters also getting better. It's kind of like an arms race, unfortunately, where like Bedman is better, but also so are his like
bad
rival characters.
Yeah.
And like this will help him fight against like other characters who didn't really change within this patch, like maybe Baiken, Milia, Soul, Kai. But even then, like those characters also have a lot of like good things going for them already. So I think it's like more so like Bedman can easily like have a lot more of a fighting chance. But in terms of like, I was thinking about it like, how good would he actually be? And I still think he's probably like, at best, I think he's mid tier. Possibly mid tier. I could be completely wrong. I hope I am. But the thing is like, yeah, there's like a lot of there's like a lot of things to call out for this character, and yeah, I think if you're able to actually kind of navigate the neutral, you realize that, like, how good it is to have like a really far-reaching tool. Like Kai's JS is amazing to snipe out Bedman with. You know, if you have like really fast anti-airs, that's also really good. If you can like lock out his ability to play in the air, it actually cripples Bedman quite a bit.
That's one thing. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You go.
Oh no, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. One thing I was gonna say is, it's funny that you brought that up, because when I was talking to a boy about Pot, he's like, well, Bedman's always in the air, so the 5H change now, our knockdowning for Pot is like, Bedman's easily our best matchup, right? Like, so it's, I understand what you mean by that, and but it's really big that Bedman has always been a character that, again, like I said at the start, people didn't really know anything about him, and they still don't to this day. So they kind of just slap him on bottom 2 or 3 or whatever without, like, you ask him, okay, well, what does he do? Well, I don't know. Everyone just says he sucks, so I just say, you know, he sucks. But, you know, hearing that he's now playing the game and now in that bubble with the other maybe not obviously the high tiers, the top tiers, but, you know, he's now in line with those other characters that are playing the game. So I think that's a big step for him being in that.
That's true. So it's good that I kind of want to add on to that point, because the thing is that like this version of Bedman, I feel like will require people to actually at least take the character to training room, let alone buy the character, because I think I know a lot of people don't know. But the thing is, like the thing about Bedman though in this game is that, or in this patch in particular, is that he could just give you out alone with this nonsense. And it'll feel really bad. Like if someone who doesn't actually know the matchup, may be inclined to just like do this over and over to them and just like risk reward them to death, and then just like constantly do all this stuff. Because this is actually like not too hard to blow up with various different kind of tools. Every character has something that, at least like 3 different things that work out against that nonsense. But they have to like they have to like take the character to training room. And that's the thing before, is that you didn't really have to learn the Bedman matchup, is because he essentially like he requires too many interactions to win. And he's just like you could just kind of like brute force your way into just like playing skewed risk reward and kind of like Slayer was like really infamous for this, because he just kind of goes in and doesn't care, and then suddenly you're just dead. So so it's kind of like difficult in that regard. But now it's because like in regards to like all of Bedman's kit now like allows him to like generate more risk, allows him to like cash out, his conversions are better, so he actually does a lot more damage. So basically you can't afford to just like tank hits constantly, because this character is actually like in the realms of like a 3 or 4 touch 4 touch win scenario. Maybe it depends on hits, of course. If you start off with a weak hit, it becomes like a 5 touch scenario, but you know, it could always change as I like, you know, help people with projectiles and etc. And then at a certain point, like, you know, if you take like 5 shots, then suddenly it's a 3-hit game. So there's like a lot of interesting stuff in that regard.
I think one thing we actually forgot to go over was the removal of DPRC. Talk to me about that and how it looks for Bedman, because I know he's a character from when I talked to Chaos. He described Bedman as, if you don't have a DP, then you should be scared like when you're blocking the character. But if you have a DP, then he kind of gets filtered. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, so Bedman has a few holes in his strings,
Yeah.
and also naturally he creates a lot of holes in his strings because he wants to. Everything is based upon timing.
Yeah.
So basically, like, let's say if I make you block this, see how much I had to delay a lot of different aspects of that string just to like make sure I can get the bomb to fall as I do the projectile.
Yeah.
So as a result, if people are kind of sniffing out the Bedman's intention and they have a DP, it's very easy to just go like it's very easy to kind of just stop that in between. And Bedman has to kind of hard call out a lot of these things in a pretty uncomfortable way. Like one example would be like I have to do this, and I kind of just like run away and just like yeah, at that point I'm pretty much like giving up my turn in some regards. There are some strings that are a lot more nuanced where I can try to do both baiting a DP and still continuing my turn. But overall, yeah, I think in that regard, it's a lot better. I think Bedman is also a character who's filled with safe jump scenarios, especially off of various knockdowns. And it feels kind of bad sometimes because like our local Leo player just uses like, oh, I see a safe jump, that means it's free DPRC to my turn.
Yep.
And I'm just like, come on, man, that's so dumb. But I mean, like now you can actually like not worry as much about like. Like God forbid, like you can actually do a safe jump without worrying about a DP. It's so weird to me, but and that's really nice. I think during pressure strings, so the Bedman player still has to like, I guess they can't autopilot, and I kind of like that, because I'm prone to autopiloting my error block strings at times. So it's definitely like. I actually kind of like it when my opponent shows more defensive options. Like, okay, it gets me to think a little bit more about how to structure my offense and be aware of what their intentions are on defense. So I think it's a very good change just for the health of the game, and because I just really hated like doing the equivalent like like say if I was solo and I did a military viper like this, and I just like and I just like RC upwards into JP into like I don't know, mix, and then it's like well,
not
that doesn't
fun.
feel. It's one thing for it to not be fun. It's just another is like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah, it's I'm glad they got rid of it, but yeah, we'll have to see. When I believe that's everything, but there is one more thing I want to ask. What for anyone looking to pick up Bedman, what are the first, especially this patch, because we went over everything and you mentioned that with the changes he kind of like he's not like so new, but the way that you can play now it feels a lot more new. So kind of the like the best Bedmans like yourself are kind of relearning like how to structure his offense. So it's not just new players alone that would be learning the characters, but more even the pros at the character. So for anyone looking to pick up the character, what advice do you have to get started with Bedman?
I say for sure. To me, I think the most important part is movement. It's kind of weird because I feel like Strive is a game that's kind of hostile towards like expressive movement sometimes.
Yeah.
But like for Bedman in particular, having an 8-way air dash is still like remarkably tricky, and you can like even if your opponent has you cornered, you can still like navigate a lot of situations out of it. It kind of like turns situations where you thought you might be it kind of like mix people up as well and just get out of a lot of scenarios. So movement is always a very fun thing to practice, I think, and good move you'll kind of see an immediate feedback of good movement. Otherwise I think just like stick to the strategy. I feel like a lot of Bedman players are kind of like lost on what to do. If you're ever lost, just actually like just play like this. Just be late. And then until the opponent actually starts to show that you need to do something different, that's like the onus is on them to actually start doing some stuff. And it kind of like this is actually the crux of it all. This is how a lot of people like learn Street Fighter. They just spam Hadokens and they don't know anything else until the opponent starts to show, okay, I can jump over it, and it's like, oh wait, I gotta anti-air this now. You need to like I think if you especially like if you're kind of newer to fighting games, like developing this kind of inherent strategy is actually mad good, I think. And that's like when I like sometimes I see it on my YouTube feed of like the low level tower players, And I think like a lot of them could just like be so strong if they actually do something like this just early on. And then afterwards, once you kind of like, this is like the foundation to building block, because once you do this and you realize your opponent's playing mid screen, then you can start to like kind of capitalize on and start to use your movement in conjunction with like how to structure pressure from there. And of course, yeah, I guess learning how to air chain is a really important one. I guess I'll just say it very briefly, but it's the idea of doing an special as the air is about to fire. So if you notice why I'm doing it right now, it's actually two projectiles. One is my air firing, it's me shooting the other needle, I guess. But you can also do this with other things as well, like yeah. And as a result, during like a yeah. So you pretty much like that's like that's exactly why Bedman pressure can feel like it's infinite at times. Is because he's constantly looping the stuff, and it's kind of gives the opponent very little wiggle room to kind of get away. There's a lot of actual avenues for the opponent to escape. So that's why Bedman players may use resources to kind of like keep the opponent like stuck. But if the Bedman player is out of resources or they opt not to use it, then the opponent does have some wiggle room. But if you choose to squirm in the wrong way, then of course the opponent might just die.
Gotcha. Well,
So, yeah.
I believe that's everything. I appreciate you coming on, and of course, let me put in case anyone again wants to learn the character, I'll put GcYoshi's Twitch, his Twitter, his Discord on the screen.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can also put it in my my YouTube. I actually
Oh yes, let me put it in his YouTube. I believe he's gonna be making a Bedman video as well, so go check that out.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you, and
Likewise.
until the next, thank you everyone.